It was demonstrating and displaying. This is what a community is. And people who did not speak Spanish and have never been to Puerto Rico, they saw that elderly woman serving a drink and the kids dancing with their grandmas, and it was intergenerational.
Really wrong, like that.
Puerto Rico, I want to dedicate this award to all the people that had to leave their homeland, their country, to follow their dreams. Before I say thanks to God, I'm going to say eyes out. We're not savage, we're not animals, we're not aliens, we are humans, and we are Americans.
The story doesn't start under the bright lights of the Super Bowl. It kicks off months earlier, when Bad Bunny made a move that confused a lot of industry insiders. Instead of chasing the UK with safe, radio-friendly hits, he dropped an album that felt personal, raw, and unapologetically Puerto Rican. In late 2024, he released Davy Tarara Moss Photos, a project soaked in memory, culture, and identity.
Also, I want to say to the people, I know it's tough to not to hate on these days. And I was thinking, sometimes we get contaminados. I don't know how to say that in English. The hate get more powerful with more hate. The only thing that is more powerful than hate is love. Please, we need to be different. If we fight, we have to do it with love. If we don't hate them, we love our people, we love our family, and that's the way to do it, with love. Don't forget that, please. Thank you.
The title translates to, I should have taken more photos, and that alone tells you this wasn't built for charts. It was built from the heart. No English hooks slipped in to make it easier for global playlists. No watered-down verses. The entire record stayed in Spanish, intentional and bold, like he was daring the market to either step up or step aside. When the album landed on the UK Albums Chart, it debuted at number 13. Respectable? Yes. Explosive? Not quite. It wasn't some overnight takeover. It felt more like the industry nodding quietly, saying, we see what you're doing. But here's the twist. Bad Bunny was already playing in a different league. He had dominated global streaming platforms for years, smashing records across continents.
Bad Bunny used the sky blue Puerto Rico flag at the Super Bowl. You might be used to seeing this flag with navy blue instead, but what does each flag mean? Time for a little Puerto Rican history. This was the first flag of Puerto Rico, the revolutionary flag of Lares. It was knitted by Mariana Bracetti Cuevas during the first uprising of Lares in 1868. It was flown there, the first revolt against Spanish colonizers. After that, pro-independence Puerto Ricans in New York City in the 1890s created this flag. And that flag would become the official flag with sky blue, white, and red. After Spain, the United States colonized Puerto Rico in 1898. Between then and the establishment of Puerto Rico as a Commonwealth in 1952, it was a felony to display the Puerto Rican flag in public. There was even a gag law which made displaying a Puerto Rican light blue or lattice flag punishable by up to 10 years in prison. In 1952, the color of the Puerto Rican flag changed from sky blue to navy blue, resembling the flag of the United States. And later, the gag law was deemed unconstitutional. For many, the light blue flag is a symbol of freedom, independence, and also a historical learning moment.
The UK, though, has always moved at its own pace, cautious and calculated. The UK market rewards what it already knows. It leans into comfort. It sticks with tradition. And even though Latin music had been gaining ground for years, a fully Spanish-language album hovering near the top still felt like a stretch to many industry watchers. So number 13 became this invisible ceiling. Week after week, the album stayed right there. No dramatic spike, no sudden UK viral wave, no explosive headline moment, just steady numbers and quiet consistency. It almost felt like the narrative had already been decided, global superstar, but only moderate traction in Britain. Clean, predictable, contained. And that part matters more than people realize. Chart takeovers rarely come out of nowhere. They build pressure behind the scenes. By early February 2026, the project looked locked into its lane. It wasn't rising, it wasn't falling, it was stable, almost frozen in place.
At number 64 jersey, that was not a random number. It was a direct shot at the government for initially reporting only 64 deaths from Hurricane Maria, hiding the thousands who actually died. That little house you saw on stage, it was a symbol of resistance against the rich tourists and the developers, gentrifying the island and pushing the local families out of their homes. His shout-out to Toñita in Nueva York was a deep cut. It was a nod to the legendary owner of a beloved cultural hub for the Puerto Rican community in New York City. And the kid holding his Grammy was a gut punch about the children separated from their families at the border by harsh ICE policies. Those figures on the power lines directly reference the chronic blackouts from his protest song El Apagón, which slams the privatization of the island's power grid. Now, bringing out Ricky Martin wasn't just a fun cameo. It was a powerful reclaiming of Puerto Rican pop history on the biggest stage in America. And the Puerto Rican flag he used had a light blue triangle. That is not the official one. It's the specific flag of the pro-independence and anti-colonial movement. And finally, his last line, he reframed America to mean the entire continent. The North, the Central, and the South, a defiant message of unity for all of us.
Then February 8th, 2026 hit Super Bowl Sunday, and suddenly the rules started bending. Super Bowl 60 pulled in over 100 million viewers in the United States alone, one of the biggest TV audiences of the year. That halftime stage has always belonged to mainstream English-language pop giants. That's the tradition. That's the formula. But on February 8th, 2026, Bad Bunny stepped onto that stage and flipped the script in real time. He performed entirely in Spanish, not halfway, not softened for wider appeal, not some bilingual compromise to make executives comfortable. The setlist stayed loyal to the catalog that built him, track by track, word by word. On the biggest broadcast stage in American television, that decision carried weight, and everybody felt it. The Super Bowl halftime show has hosted global icons for decades, from polished pop royalty to stadium rock giants. Traditionally, it spotlights artists who slide easily into American mainstream culture. But Bad Bunny didn't reshape himself to fit that mold. He didn't translate his identity. He brought his world with him and made the world watch. The impact was instant. Social media lit up within minutes. Clips flooded timelines. Streaming numbers jumped within hours. Major playlists adjusted fast. Search traffic exploded like people were racing to catch up. The energy wasn't subtle. It was loud and measurable, but the most fascinating reaction didn't unfold in the United States. It happened across the Atlantic. While American viewers argued about stage design and surprise guests, something concrete was shifting inside the UK charts. And this wasn't a gentle rise. It wasn't the slow burn of radio rotation. This was pressure finally breaking through. This wasn't the usual small boost artists get after a big TV moment. It wasn't a polite spike and fade. It was a full-on surge, the kind that makes chart analysts pause, refresh the data, and check twice before going live with the numbers. Within days of the broadcast, UK streams for Davy Tarara Moss photos shot up fast, and it wasn't just one catchy single pulling the weight. Multiple tracks from the album started climbing at the same time. The whole project moved as a unit. That's not random hype, that's demand kicking the door open. This wasn't momentum slowly building in the background. It was momentum arriving all at once. And when the official UK chart numbers dropped, the shift was impossible to downplay. The week after the Super Bowl, the UK albums chart delivered the shocker. Davy Tarara Moss photos jumped from number 13 straight to number 2. An 11-place leap in a single week is rare territory. Albums don't just vault like that without a serious external trigger. This wasn't gradual growth, It was a sharp market correction. Only Olivia Dean's The Art of Loving held it from the #1 spot, and even that gap was tight. Meanwhile, the UK singles chart echoed the same energy. DTMF rocketed up 39 places to land at #4, marking Bad Bunny's highest UK singles position ever. OL pushed into the top 20, peaking around #15, while Bail Inolvidable followed closely, hovering near #20. The takeover wasn't subtle, it was everywhere. This wasn't one random viral clip dragging the numbers up. It was the whole album moving as one. When multiple tracks rise at the same time, that signals something deeper than a catchy hook on repeat. That means new listeners aren't just tasting a chorus, they're diving headfirst into the catalog. That's replay value. That's real conversion. That's people staying. For years, Bad Bunny had ruled global streaming platforms. He topped international year-end lists. He shattered records across territories. But in the UK, there always seemed to be a glass ceiling. That #13 debut showed respect, sure, but it also hinted at limits. Strong recognition, limited crossover. And then in one single week, that ceiling cracked wide open. The Super Bowl didn't introduce him to the world. The world already knew. What it did was amplify him inside a market that had kept him slightly at arm's length. And that moment turned into his first solo UK top 10 album, plus one of his highest charting singles ever in the territory. That's not small progress. That's a shift. The charts didn't slowly adjust, they snapped. And when numbers move that fast, the bigger question isn't about hype, it's about structure. What actually changed? The audience or the rules of the game? Because the language didn't change. Bad Bunny has made Spanish-language music his entire career. He didn't flip to English. He didn't rebrand. He didn't dilute who he was. The album that jumped to #2 was the exact same album that debuted at 13. The only difference? Visibility. That Super Bowl stage in February 2026 turned the volume all the way up. He never treated Spanish like it was niche. He never packaged it as regional. He presented it as global by default, and that difference hits hard. For decades, artists trying to break into English-speaking markets were expected to adjust everything, translate the lyrics, tweak the sound, rework the image, reposition the brand. He didn't bend. He didn't filter himself down. And the UK reaction proved something powerful. When confidence shows up instead of compromise, audiences feel it. That post-Super Bowl spike wasn't sympathy. It wasn't hype for hype's sake. It was curiosity turning into real streams. People didn't just watch the performance and move on. They went searching. They pressed play. And they stayed. That's a big difference. Now look at the industry mechanics. Charts measure consumption, but exposure fuels that consumption. Airplay, playlist slots, headlines, algorithm boosts. These shape momentum behind the scenes. And the Super Bowl halftime show? That's one of the only stages big enough to flip those switches overnight. But none of this happened in a vacuum. The groundwork was already solid. Years of consistent releases, massive global tours, record-breaking streaming numbers. The UK surge didn't build a fan base from zero. It activated one that had been hovering just below the surface. That 11-place album jump and 39-place singles climb weren't random. They were pressure finally released. These single surges weren't random spikes. They were pressure finally releasing. And when that pressure broke through, it challenged one long-standing assumption, that English is the required gateway to full mainstream validation. The charts didn't just log a victory, they documented a structural shift in real time. Bad Bunny was 31 when this happened. He wasn't some new act scrambling for attention. He wasn't an underdog begging to be seen. He was already one of the most streamed artists on the planet before the UK numbers ever moved. That's what makes this moment heavy. For years, global streaming data screamed dominance. Billions of plays, sold-out stadium tours, major awards. But global stats and local validation are two different games. The UK has always carried a reputation as a tastemaker territory, selective, measured, slow to fully embrace non-English catalogs. That number 13 debut felt like confirmation of that caution. Respect, but restraint. Then the leap to number 2 flipped the tone entirely. The Super Bowl performance didn't reinvent his career. It sharpened the lens. It made the narrative impossible to ignore. He reached the biggest televised stage in America without switching languages, without trimming his identity, and still expanded into a market that once felt hesitant. That's not just growth. That's proof that the rules are changing. And once that barrier cracked, the ripple effect went deeper than just one chart week. Industry executives started paying closer attention. Program directors who once hesitated around full Spanish records suddenly had fresh data in front of them. Streaming platforms adjusted recommendations faster. Media coverage shifted tone from, "Can he cross over?" to, "He already has." That language change matters more than people think. Because this wasn't about novelty, it wasn't about a one-night spectacle, it was about normalization. When millions of viewers watched a Super Bowl halftime show performed entirely in Spanish and didn't tune out, it quietly rewired expectations. The idea that English is the default setting for global success took a hit. And here's the key part. Nothing about the music changed. The production style stayed consistent. The lyrics stayed authentic. The cultural references remained rooted in Puerto Rico. The only variable that shifted was scale. Visibility expanded and the market adjusted around it. That's why this moment carries weight beyond one artist. It signaled that mainstream validation doesn't have to come after translation. It can come through amplification. The UK charts didn't just reward a performance, they responded to confidence presented at maximum volume. And when markets respond like that, it forces the entire industry to rethink what global really means moving forward. What happened next wasn't loud, but it was telling. In the weeks that followed, the numbers didn't crash back down. That's the part people overlook. Flashy viral moments fade fast. But this held. The album maintained strong positioning. Tracks continued pulling streams. That kind of stability proves the spike wasn't hype. It was integration. UK listeners didn't just visit the catalog out of curiosity. They added songs to playlists. They replayed them. They shared them. That's when a market shifts from observing to participating. And once participation kicks in, the ceiling doesn't reset to where it used to be. There's also a psychological layer here. When audiences see an artist command the biggest stage in American entertainment without compromising language or identity, it reframes perception. It removes the idea of foreign and replaces it with formidable. That shift is subtle, but powerful. For years, the conversation around non-English music in certain Western markets revolved around barriers, accessibility, translation, adaptation. This moment flipped that narrative. It suggested that scale and confidence can override hesitation. And when one major territory recalibrates, others watch closely. Labels take notes, festival bookers reassess lineups, radio programmers reconsider risk. The ripple doesn't stop at one chart week. It reshapes strategy, because once a market proves it can respond to authenticity at full volume, it becomes harder to argue that compromise was ever necessary in the first place. Exposure doesn't magically create taste, but it can accelerate acceptance. And audiences are way more flexible than old industry models like to admit. The UK didn't discover Bad Bunny overnight. The foundation was already there. What changed was scale. The response finally matched the global reality. What happened after February 8, 2026, wasn't just a random chart blip. It was a case study in cultural confidence colliding with mainstream infrastructure and winning. It showed that you don't have to dilute identity to expand markets. Sometimes you just need the volume turned up high enough for everyone to hear it. Now the real question, was this a one-time Super Bowl surge or the moment the UK finally aligned with a global shift already in motion? Drop your take below and tap into the next video for our deeper breakdown of another public figure who reshaped the industry without reshaping themselves. Let's get into this Bad Bunny situation for real. People online throw all kinds of nicknames around, but the real conversation isn't about the name. It's about that halftime show and why so many viewers felt let down. Before jumping to conclusions, here's some context. There's a clip going around from a guy online named Joe Bonham, Bonham, if you want to look him up. He interviewed NFL players before the halftime show even happened. And what came out of those interviews? Total disconnect. A lot of those players admitted they had no clue who Bad Bunny was. Not one song, not one album, nothing. One of them even said, "I thought it was a girl." And when he found out it wasn't, he assumed something else and said, "I thought it was a gay dude, which I can almost put my life on it." That wasn't even meant as disrespect. It just shows how unfamiliar some audiences were with him. So think about that for a second. If a big part of the NFL crowd doesn't even recognize the artist, how are they supposed to feel excited when he hits the stage? That's the gap people are reacting to. Not just the performance, but the mismatch between the artist and the audience. Now things got even more heated after that. One guy straight up said, "He's a gay dude. I want to call him the F word, but I'm really trying to be saved." That right there shows how emotional people were getting, but let's keep it real. Throwing insults doesn't make the argument stronger, it just makes it louder. Then he doubled down and said, "Nobody listens to Bad Bunny, bro." That's how out of touch he felt with the whole thing. He even added, "Then I found out he don't even do nothing in English." What the F? I don't know. No Spanish. I know how to tell you to put your hands behind your back. That mean turn around. That mean you under arrest. He tried to turn it into a joke about only knowing basic commands, saying, "I don't know no Spanish because I'm an American. I barely know English." It was messy, but it shows the culture gap he was talking about. And then, plot twist, he jumps straight into a mattress ad like nothing happened. He starts praising Brooklyn bedding, saying his sleep changed overnight. "I fall asleep way faster. I stay asleep, and I wake up feeling like I actually rested." He even said he bought one for his mama and his mother-in-law, trying to get the whole family upgraded. Before buying, he took their sleep quiz, answered a few simple questions, and got matched with the perfect mattress. From halftime drama to bedtime comfort in one breath, that transition was wild. He kept pushing the mattress heavy. He said what he loves most is the comfort and the value. Factory direct quality without all that retail circus energy. No pushy showroom workers, no crazy markups, no awkward sales pressure. It shows up rolled tight in a box, you open it, and boom, it sets up in minutes. No strange smells, no drama, and it sleeps cool through the night. He made sure to mention Brooklyn bedding has been around since 1995. Every mattress is designed, assembled, and shipped straight out of Arizona, from their own factory. That's how they keep the quality high and the price reasonable. You also get a 120-night sleep trial, a limited lifetime warranty, and free shipping right to your door. He made it clear. He loves his Brooklyn bedding mattress and thinks you would too. Then he drops the promo. Go to brooklynbedding.com/Tatum and get 30% off with code Tatum. Simple pitch. Sleep better and feel the difference. But just like that, the vibe flips again. Let's play a couple clips, he says. Suddenly, the focus shifts back to the halftime storm. He mentions people on the news talking about the performance. Clip 103, he calls out. And here's where it gets heated again. He says, and Bad Bunny is doing all kind of nasty stuff and kissing other dudes and all kind of stuff. But y'all don't care about that. Then he switches it to Kid Rock, saying people want to dig up something from 150 years ago about him instead of talking about how Kid Rock was speaking about faith and changing his life. But y'all want to bring up something old about Kid Rock. Now, the argument isn't just about a halftime show. It's about media focus, double standards, and who gets criticized versus who gets defended. Then he cranked the volume up again. He said, but Bad Bunny is I want to say it, but I'm trying to be a good Christian. You could tell he was holding himself back, but the frustration was still loud. He pointed at the screen and asked, look at what he's putting on TV in front of your kids. That was his angle. Not just the artist, but the visibility of the performance. He called for the clip and reacted hard. He described it as two dudes bumping peepees, saying that's what people were defending. That's how he framed it, as something he believed crossed a line for mainstream television. He questioned why that kind of display was considered acceptable to some viewers, especially during a major broadcast event. Then he added another layer to it, the language barrier. He said people still didn't know what was being said because it was in Spanish. We still don't know what he's saying, he argued, tying it back to his belief that the audience couldn't connect with it. When the next clip rolled, he shifted the focus again, this time to audience demographics. He claimed, no white people ain't listening to that stuff. Then he compared it to rap artists like Nelly and Ludacris. He talked about going to a concert at a golf tournament and being shocked that white fans were singing every word. He even admitted that growing up, he thought artists like Nelly, Ludacris, and Ja Rule were only popular in certain communities until he saw otherwise. His point? Language matters. He argued that when artists perform in English, the broader audience connects easier. Whether people agree or not, that's the argument he was pushing. Connection, culture, and who the mainstream audience relates to. Then he moves on again, asking who else has a take on it. He says, we got a VER on there. Let's go to the VER. Roll it. And once that clip starts, the energy jumps again. The speaker in that clip goes straight into it, talking about unity, then flipping it into frustration about Black History Month. He claims there wasn't a single Black performer highlighted during that Super Bowl moment. He argues that while it was February, a month that recognizes Black history, the spotlight seemed focused on Latin culture instead. He pushes it even further, saying Latino heritage was being celebrated on that stage. Spanish language, Latin music, full cultural expression, and in his view, Black representation wasn't front and center the way he expected. That's the angle he's taking, whether people agree with it or not. Then he makes it political, saying certain communities are being taken for granted and that support during elections isn't being rewarded with visibility. He throws out strong words, calling the artist Black Dumb Bunny, or whatever his name is, clearly frustrated and mixing things up in the process. He also questions the language barrier again. He says if someone went on stage speaking Japanese at a huge American event, most viewers wouldn't understand it. His argument is about connection, claiming people can't engage with something they don't understand. It's loud, it's emotional, and it's definitely a heated take. And just like that, he's ready to move on to the next opinion in line. Then he switches gears again. Come on, Shannon Sharp. Unc, you think? and he pauses like he's about to call somebody out face to face. He starts questioning whether Shannon is just out of touch or distracted by personal drama that's been floating around online. He brings up that viral Instagram Live situation and basically says, "You don't accidentally go live. There are steps to that." He also references a lawsuit that's been reported in the media, implying that with all that going on, maybe Shannon shouldn't be lecturing anybody right now. His tone is clear. Don't try to stand on a moral high ground when your own house looks messy. That's the energy he's coming with. But then he circles back to the halftime issue. He says the problem isn't that the artist is from another country. He insists nobody's mad about nationality. His claim is that the frustration is about language, about not understanding what's being said during a massive American broadcast. He compares it to other performers. He mentions U2 and the Rolling Stones, saying they performed in English, so the audience could connect and sing along. His argument is simple. If people can't understand the lyrics, they feel disconnected from the performance. He doubles down, saying it's not about background, it's about accessibility. That's the lane he's choosing, whether people agree with it or not. He keeps the train moving. All right, do we got somebody else with a bad take? Then he says, "I think Don Lemon got a bad take." You can hear the sarcasm already loading up. He throws a jab, saying, "That dude can't even do an interview without somebody standing behind him." That's how he frames it, more style than substance in his eyes. Then he calls for the clip to roll. Now the debate shifts into history and language again. The speaker in the clip argues that native tribes didn't speak Spanish either. He basically says, if we're going to rewind history and question language roots, then let's be consistent about it. He's accusing critics of picking and choosing which history they want to highlight and which parts they ignore. Then the tone turns sharp again. He mocks the idea that Spanish is suddenly controversial, questioning why it's fine in some contexts, but not others. His frustration sounds personal, like he believes people are moving the goalposts depending on the argument. When the clip continues, the topic shifts to Puerto Rico. The speaker says, "Puerto Rico is a part of America." Then he brings up the whole stolen land conversation, suggesting there's hypocrisy in how people frame territory and history. He's basically saying, if we're going to talk about land, language, and ownership, then let's talk about all of it, not just the parts that fit a headline. By this point, it's less about halftime and more about culture wars, identity, and who gets to define what's American on a national stage. And just like that, he's ready to roll the next clip, this time about backlash at a bar over Turning Point being played. Then he fires off again, defending that business that told critics not to come back. He says he respects companies that stand their ground instead of folding under pressure. His mindset is simple. If you don't like what a private business is doing, just leave. Don't try to shut it down. Don't try to bully it. Just walk away. That's the energy he's backing. Right after that, he pivots into something personal. He invites everyone to join him on February 25th at Longbow Golf Course for a charity golf event. He says this tournament means a lot to him because it's the only one he's ever played in. And this year, they're the title sponsors. That means he wants to show up big and make it count. He calls on supporters directly. Don't let him down. Come golf, show up, have fun, and back something positive. He says the link will be in the description, with tickets around $200 for an individual or $700 for a foursome. It's about community, connection, and supporting a cause. He also mentions that businesses can sponsor a whole, which helps fund Save the Storks, an organization he says he's worked with for about 5 years. According to him, they've helped launch multiple mobile medical clinics, often called stork buses, across different cities. He even talks about cutting the ribbon at one launch event in Texas, possibly the Dallas or Arlington area. These mobile clinics are designed to support women facing unexpected pregnancies by offering medical services and counseling in a non-hospital setting. For him, this isn't just about golf. It's about backing a cause he believes in and rallying his audience to step up too. He keeps it rolling and says, "Why sit around complaining if you believe there's a solution right in front of you?" In his view, instead of arguing nonstop, people should support organizations they believe actually address the issue. That's why he brings it back to save the storks again and tells people to show up, have fun, and be part of something positive. He paints the golf event like it's the highlight of the month. Cigars, laughs, good vibes, all for a cause. He's hyping it up heavy, saying it's going to be the most fun thing he does all month. That's the mood he's selling. Then he switches gears again and says, "Let's play Grandma real quick, because apparently Grandma had something to say too." The clip rolls, and Grandma jumps straight in. He ain't even speaking English. She argues the issue isn't about immigrants. It's about understanding what's being said during the performance. Her point is simple. How can the audience enjoy it if they don't understand the message? She compares it to hearing random sounds without context, saying if there's activism or meaning behind it, most viewers wouldn't even know. She also claims that in other countries, major national events usually highlight the native language. That's her perspective, whether people agree or not. And it keeps the debate centered on language, connection, and who the main audience is supposed to be. He wraps it up still confused about the hype. He says he doesn't even understand how the artist got that big if most of the mainstream crowd can't follow the language. That's his perspective. He keeps circling back to connection and comprehension. Then he shifts to Kid Rock and says Kid Rock had something to say that people really responded to. The clip rolls, and he reacts instantly. Just that little part right there, way better than everything Bad Bunny was doing. That's his opinion, loud and clear. He admits again he didn't understand what was being said in the halftime set, but what really gets him fired up is what he sees as selective outrage. He says commentators like Don Lemon are bringing up lyrics Kid Rock said years ago, digging deep into the past. Then he brings up other artists, the notorious B.I.G., Tupac, and 3-6 Mafia, arguing that many classic hip-hop acts had controversial lyrics too. His point isn't about erasing anyone. It's about consistency. He's questioning why certain artists get celebrated despite aggressive themes in their old music, while others get dragged for things they said decades back. For him, it all comes down to double standards and who the media chooses to spotlight or criticize. If you want more breakdowns like this, raw takes, culture debates, and the stuff people argue about behind the scenes, make sure you subscribe to Juicy Reel and stay locked in for the next drop. He closes it out still scratching his head. He says he doesn't even get how the artist became that popular when most of the mainstream audience can't understand the language. That confusion is what keeps fueling his whole argument. Then he pivots to Kid Rock and says Kid Rock had a few words that really hit home for a lot of people. The clip rolls, and he reacts fast. Just that little part right there, way better than everything Bad Bunny was doing. That's his take, straight up. He admits again he didn't understand the halftime lyrics, but what really bothers him is what he sees as selective criticism. He says commentators like Don Lemon are digging up things Kid Rock said years ago, acting outraged now. Meanwhile, he points to artists like the notorious B.I.G., Tupac, and 3-6 Mafia, all legends with intense, sometimes violent lyrics in their catalogs. His argument: if we're going to judge old lyrics, judge everybody the same. Don't rewrite the rules depending on who's in the spotlight. That's the double standard he believes is happening. If you want more real talk, bold debates, and breakdowns they don't always spell out on TV, hit that subscribe button on Juicy Reel and stay locked in. Because we're just getting started.
Bad Bunny gives a whole new meaning to traffic jam. The Puerto Rican singer and rapper rolled through parts of the Bronx and Washington Heights performing from atop a semi-truck.
That's all it took for Bad Bunny to flip his whole life upside down. One minute he's bagging groceries in Puerto Rico, the next he's running the entire music game.
It was the year of the bunny. I mean, Bad Bunny topping the charts in multiple categories.
Back in 2016, Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio was just a quiet supermarket worker dropping tracks on SoundCloud after shifts. No big label, no industry cosign, just raw hunger. Fast forward to 2019, and he's standing next to Drake and Cardi B like he'd been there all along. By 2022, his album Un Verano Sin Ti smashed streaming records worldwide and made Grammy history as the first all-Spanish project ever nominated for Album of the Year at the Grammy Awards. That's not luck, that's a takeover. But this story hits deeper than charts and trophies. This isn't just about one artist blowing up. This is about Bad Bunny reshaping the entire industry blueprint. He didn't just rise to the top, he changed what the top even means. Back in 2016, the rules were locked in tight. English pop and hip-hop ran the global charts. Latin music, boxed into side categories and niche radio lanes. Streaming was growing fast, sure, but label execs, radio programmers, and corporate power players still decided who got worldwide shine. Breaking those walls felt impossible, until he did it anyway. Bad Bunny, born Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio in San Juan, Puerto Rico, was never supposed to flip the whole system. He wasn't industry royalty. He wasn't groomed by executives. He was a regular college student studying audio-visual communications, clocking in at a supermarket just to survive. Music? That was just something he did after work, uploading reggaeton tracks to SoundCloud under the name Bad Bunny, and hoping somebody, somewhere, would press play. The name itself came from a childhood photo. Him in an Easter bunny costume, rocking an angry face like he was already fed up with the world. And that attitude, it became the brand. What happened next proved something powerful. In the streaming era, real talent and raw authenticity could smash through every gate the old industry tried to keep locked. It all shifted in January 2016 with one upload. He dropped Dials on SoundCloud, gritty, unfiltered, fully in Spanish, exactly the type of record industry experts swore would never cross into the mainstream. No English hooks, no watered-down sound, just straight vibes. But the streets had other plans. Streams started climbing, shares went crazy. Word spread fast across Latin America and throughout Latino communities worldwide. Suddenly, people weren't just listening, they were talking. Who was this new voice? Why did he sound so different? And how did he feel so real? The success of that track wasn't cooked up in some boardroom with $1 million promo budget. There was no flashy campaign, no corporate machine pushing buttons behind the scenes. This was pure street energy. The buzz spread through social media, group chats, reposts, and word of mouth like wildfire. That's when DJ Luian, a Puerto Rican producer with a sharp ear, stumbled across the track and instantly saw the vision. He signed Bad Bunny to his label, Hear This Music, and by the end of 2016, they dropped the breakout single, Soy Peor. The record didn't just chart, it exploded. It eventually pulled in over 330 million views on YouTube and stamped Bad Bunny as a serious force in Latin music. This wasn't hype anymore. This was real momentum. But Soy Peor was only the first wave. What truly separated Bad Bunny wasn't just the sound, it was the mindset. While other artists softened their edges chasing mainstream approval, he went harder into who he really was. He rapped fully in Spanish. He embraced bold, gender-fluid fashion. He spoke openly about Puerto Rico and Latino identity without hesitation. No filter, no compromise. By 2017, the climb got even steeper. He teamed up with Carol G on Ahora Me Llama and Becky G on Mayores, which became his first entry on the Billboard Hot 100 and his first #1 hit in Spain. These collabs proved he could dominate globally without switching up who he was. Then came the real game changer. In 2018, Cardi B was building her debut album Invasion of Privacy and wanted a Latin-inspired anthem. She tapped J Balvin and Bad Bunny for I Like It, built around a sample of Pete Rodriguez's 1967 salsa classic. That link-up wasn't just a feature. It was a cultural detonation waiting to happen. I Like It didn't just climb the charts, it took over. In September 2018, the track hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and shook the entire industry. This wasn't just another catchy single. This was a cultural earthquake. For the first time in the streaming era, a predominantly Spanish-language song sat at the very top of American music. That moment sent a loud message. Latin music wasn't crossing over anymore, it had arrived. That explosion paved the way for his debut album X100 PRE, released on Christmas Eve 2018. 15 tracks, no compromises, pure reggaeton energy mixed with emotion and sharp storytelling. The album peaked at #11 on the Billboard 200, impressive for any newcomer, but groundbreaking for a Spanish-language debut. He wasn't adjusting to the system. He was bending it. But that was only the warm-up round. From 2019 to 2022, Bad Bunny launched into a whole different universe of dominance. His joint project Oasis with J Balvin ruled Latin charts in 2019. Then in 2020, he dropped YHLQMDLG, short for Yo hago lo que me da la gana, meaning I do whatever I want. And he meant it. The album debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, making him the first artist ever to top the chart with an all-Spanish project. History made, again. Later that same year, El Último Tour del Mundo gave him a second straight #1. That wasn't luck. That was domination. This wasn't a temporary wave. This was a reset of the entire game. And just when the industry thought it understood the scale of his rise, something even bigger was coming. Then 2022 hit, and everything changed again. Un verano sin ti, A Summer Without You, dropped with almost no warning. No big lead singles, barely any traditional promo. Zero attempts to water it down for English-speaking markets. Just 23 tracks of pure Bad Bunny energy, blending reggaeton with indie pop, dembow, and smooth Caribbean vibes. And that first week? Absolute chaos. The album smashed streaming records, breaking Drake's previous mark for the biggest debut in Spotify history. Over 180 million streams in just 3 days. By the end of week 1, it pulled 273 million streams, numbers that didn't even sound real, especially for a fully Spanish project. The so-called rules of the music business? Gone. But the wild part? That was only the start. The album sat at #1 on the Billboard 200 for 13 straight weeks, longer than any other album that year. It became the first Spanish-language project ever to top the year-end Billboard 200 chart, and on Spotify, it crushed records again, eventually passing 15 billion streams and still climbing. That's not just success, that's dominance on a historic level, and beyond the numbers, the culture shifted. Tracks like Titi Me Preguntó, Moscow Mule, and Mi Porto Bonito weren't just Latino hits. They became global anthems. Clubs, TikTok, festivals, everywhere you looked, those songs were playing. He proved something loud and clear. Language was never the barrier. Quality was king. And Bad Bunny had just reset the entire global pop conversation. Bad Bunny's rise didn't just shake playlists, it forced the entire music industry to rethink what mainstream even means. The old belief that English had to dominate global pop? That narrative started crumbling fast. Then came the moment that locked his name into history forever. On November 15, 2022, the Grammy Awards nominations were announced, and Bad Bunny made history. Un Verano Sin Ti became the first fully Spanish-language album ever nominated for Album of the Year, the Grammys' most elite category. That's the top of the top. Pause and think about that. In over 65 years of Grammy history, with thousands of albums nominated across every genre imaginable, not one Spanish-language project had ever reached that level. Not once. Bad Bunny didn't just squeeze through the door, he blasted it wide open. Even though Harry Styles ultimately took home the trophy, the nomination itself meant something bigger than gold hardware. It was official confirmation that the culture had shifted. This wasn't charity. This wasn't a trend. This was recognition that the global sound had changed. And Bad Bunny led that charge. And the milestones didn't stop there. He also became the first Latin artist ever named Billboard's Artist of the Year. That title isn't handed out lightly. It proved the takeover wasn't temporary hype. It was a permanent reset of the entire music landscape. He didn't just dominate charts, he rewrote global streaming history. Bad Bunny became the first non-English language artist ever to be named the most streamed artist worldwide on Spotify. 3 years in a row. That's not a moment. That's a reign. Then came the touring numbers. And they were insane. His world's hottest tour pulled in over $435 million, making it the highest-grossing tour ever by a Latin artist. Stadiums packed, tickets gone in minutes, entire cities moving to his rhythm. That's not hype. That's power on a global scale. And here's the part that hits hardest. He did all of this without switching up who he is. Bad Bunny stayed unapologetically Puerto Rican the entire way. His visuals celebrated Caribbean culture. His lyrics tackled real topics like gentrification back home. His fashion pushed boundaries and challenged old-school ideas about masculinity. He didn't blend in to win. He stood out louder. That realness, that was the secret weapon. Even in business, he stayed solid. While many artists chase crossover fame by recording in English or leaning heavily on American pop features, he kept building with his own circle. He consistently collaborated with Latin artists like Rauw Alejandro, Jaco, and Bomba Estéreo. That loyalty to his culture wasn't a limitation. It was the blueprint. That movement showcased just how deep and diverse Latin music really is. It wasn't just about one superstar. It was about shining a spotlight on rising talent and proving the culture had layers. Different sounds, different regions, different vibes, all getting global attention at the same time. And the ripple effect? Massive. Bad Bunny's rise didn't just elevate his own career, it cracked open doors for a whole wave of Latin artists. Suddenly, Spanish-language music wasn't extra content. It was front and center. Streaming platforms started pushing Latin playlists harder. Labels began investing real budgets into non-English projects. The system had to adjust because the numbers were too loud to ignore. Even radio stations began spinning more Spanish tracks. Award shows expanded categories to reflect Latin music's growing dominance. The infrastructure of the industry shifted in real time. All because one artist proved the ceiling wasn't real. By 2023 and rolling into 2024, the shift was undeniable. Latin music became one of the fastest-growing genres in the United States. Streaming for Spanish-language content surged at record speed. New artists followed the same blueprint. Stay authentic, stay proud, stay rooted. No need to blend in to win. And the wild part? His influence didn't stop at music. It spilled into culture, fashion, and identity on a global scale. His presence started reaching places nobody expected. When Bad Bunny stepped into WWE events, ratings jumped and social media went wild. He wasn't just doing cameo appearances, he was performing, training, and showing up like he belonged there. That crossover pulled in massive new audiences and proved his pull went way beyond music. His fashion, trend-setting worldwide. Skirts, bold colors, painted nails. He flipped old rules about masculinity and made self-expression look powerful. At the same time, his political activism kept Puerto Rico in global conversations. He used his platform to highlight issues affecting the island, pushing real topics into mainstream headlines. That's bigger than entertainment. That's cultural leadership. Then January 2025 hit, and he did it again. His new project shot straight to #1 and helped him become the first Latin artist ever to reach 100 entries on the Billboard Hot 100. That milestone proved 2022 wasn't some lucky peak. It was the new standard. When you step back and look at this 3-year run, it almost sounds unreal. He took an industry built around English dominance and tight gatekeeping and flipped the whole structure. Talent, authenticity, cultural pride, that was the formula. He didn't just win the game, he changed what winning even looks like. He proved something the industry tried to deny for years. You don't have to erase who you are to win worldwide. You don't have to switch languages, soften your culture, or water down your roots just to be accepted. And the biggest impact? He kicked open a door that can never be shut again. Now when we see Latin artists running global charts, when Spanish-language tracks dominate streaming platforms, when major festivals proudly headline reggaeton acts, we're looking at the world Bad Bunny helped build. This shift didn't happen by accident. It happened because one artist refused to bend. The grocery store worker from Puerto Rico didn't just level up. He redesigned the blueprint. He turned authenticity into a global currency. He showed that cultural pride isn't a limitation, it's leverage. In this new era, connection beats conformity. Real stories beat forced crossover moves. The language barrier myth, dead and buried. And what makes it even crazier? This transformation unfolded in just 3 years. That's not gradual evolution. That's a full industry reset. Bad Bunny didn't just have a successful run. He sparked a revolution in how music moves, how culture travels, and how power shifts. If this deep dive into his industry takeover had you thinking differently, make sure you subscribe to Juicy Reel for more breakdowns like this. We unpack the strategies, the risks, and the turning points that reshape the game. Because once you understand how change happens, you start spotting the next wave before everyone else does.
The Grammys are not just an award show, but a time capsule of culture. It reflects the political climate of our time, what moves people and what people are speaking out against. It highlights true artistry, giving a glimpse into the future of music and who the next generation of tastemakers will be.
The Grammys aren't just another awards night, they're a straight-up time capsule of culture. They show where the world is at, what people care about, what sparks outrage, and what voices are finally getting heard. Every year, it's a snapshot of the political mood, the creative risks, and the artists shaping what's next in music. The wins, the snubs, the speeches, all of it tells a deeper story. Not just who walked away with a trophy, but what the industry is choosing to reward, what it's quietly resisting, and what it totally slept on and is now scrambling to catch up to. This isn't about stats or applause. It's about power, influence, and momentum. So this isn't just a basic rundown of winners and losers. This is about reading between the lines, predicting where music is heading, and figuring out which artists are about to level up hard next year. What did these Grammys reveal about voting habits going forward? Who got nominated and who's about to explode next? Welcome back to Nikki at Night. I'm your host, Nikki Reardon, and I'm seriously hyped to break this all down today. I was actually there last night thanks to YouTube, and it was unreal. Walking the carpet, snapping pics, hitting the glam bot, posted up in a private suite the whole night. Big love to YouTube for that invite. It was a once-in-a-lifetime vibe. And let's be real, the performances this year absolutely went off. I cannot wait to break all of this down with you because, trust me, I have a lot of thoughts. And seriously, thank you for watching, because this whole thing still feels unreal. The fact that this is something I get to do and actually call work is wild to me. It doesn't even feel real half the time. Every single view, every click, every minute you spend watching makes this possible for me. You're the reason music journalism gets taken seriously again. The reason people actually want to talk about artistry, intention, and what it really means to be a musician. That support is changing my life in real time, and I don't take that lightly at all. Now let's get into my favorite category of the night, Best New Artist. I called Olivia Dean, period. I genuinely think she could take Album of the Year next year, which is insane to even say out loud. Technically, The Art of Loving still counts for next year's album cycle, so we might be stepping straight into the year of Olivia Dean. Her performance was unreal. She has one of the most magnetic auras I've ever seen, no exaggeration. The way she smiles, the way she moves, the way she holds the stage, you can tell she's fully living her dream. It's beautiful to watch. And her acceptance speech? Absolutely flawless. Her speech was tight, meaningful, and quietly powerful. It hit the political side without forcing it, and she spoke so clearly about what this moment meant to her. Hearing her talk about her experience as the granddaughter of an immigrant was genuinely beautiful, and it landed hard for me personally. You could feel the pride, the gratitude, and the history all wrapped into one moment. I also loved that they brought back the Best New Artist medley. That is always such a smart move. It gives new artists real stage time, not just a name on a screen. For a lot of viewers, this is the first real introduction to some of these artists, and that matters. Everyone already knows Gaga, Kendrick, and Bad Bunny. The world's locked in on them. This was about saying, pay attention, these are the next ones up. That focused intention felt so clear. These are the artists who shook the room this year, and this is the next generation stepping forward. Giving each of them their own moment on that stage was special. But there were a few performances that completely stole my attention. Lola Young had my jaw on the floor. Going minimalist with just a piano, and her voice was the smartest possible move. When you're sharing a medley with that many people, stripping it all back is power. Just her, the piano, and a slow, emotional version of Messy. That's it? No distractions? Her vocals are unreal, like actually outrageous live. I need that version on streaming immediately. Please put that on Spotify because it was stunning. Somehow her voice sounded even better live, and that's rare. Absolutely insane performance. She is absolutely on track to be remembered as one of the greatest vocalists of this generation. No doubt about it. That voice is not normal. And I loved that Somber chose to perform 12 to 12, because that is hands down his strongest song to date. It really shows his full range, not just as a singer, but as a songwriter and producer too. You can tell there's way more depth to him as an artist than people might expect. We've seen Back to Friends and Undressed, which fit that sad boy, emo-leaning era perfectly. But after this performance, I'm like, wait a second. You could drop a full disco album and I would eat that up immediately. No hesitation. And the look? Insane. I love how he always dresses like his music sounds. That giant disco ball energy, the custom metallic fit, it literally felt like 12 to 12 turned into an outfit. That's what a Grammys look should be to me. Full commitment, no fear. I also loved seeing him actually move on stage. Guys barely do choreography anymore, and it's wild to me. Is he a full dancer like Cat's Eye? No. But the little groove, the shimmy, the effort, that's what matters. We want performance. Look at what Sabrina's doing. Look at what Addison did. The girls are going all in. I want to see men try that hard too. Him easing into movement is such a good sign. Honestly, if he took dance classes, his stage presence would level up fast. I need more guys going for it like that, period. The transition into Addison Rae was absolutely wild. I was fully gagged. The energy shift was insane. It was bold, fearless, and completely locked in. That moment snapped everything into place and instantly raised the temperature in the room. It was pure pop star confidence. No hesitation, no holding back. If you're not losing your mind when she performs gnarly at Coachella, I don't know what to tell you. If you're not right up at the barricade for Addison, respectfully, move out of the way. That's the energy she's bringing right now. This is about fun, movement, and letting loose again. Shake it, dance, jump, do something. Music is supposed to feel exciting. We need to bring joy back into performances. I want to see people moving, committing, and actually enjoying themselves. This isn't about standing still and looking cool. It's about giving us a moment. Addison fully understood the assignment and ran with it. I also want to talk about Alex Warren because that situation was genuinely rough. You could tell something was off, and that's terrifying when it's your very first Grammys. Performing live on TV, suspended in the air, everything going wrong at once. That's a nightmare scenario. But honestly, as a viewer, it did not come across badly at all. You could see how hard he was trying to stay focused and push through it. Given the circumstances, he handled it with real composure. That actually earned him a lot of respect from me. Showing up and finishing strong when things aren't perfect says a lot. All right, next up, let's talk about Song of the Year. Birds of a Feather alone pulling billions of streams in a single year says everything. That project is already generational, no debate. And honestly, this is Billy's strongest body of work to date. The songwriting on Wildflower is stunning. It digs into past relationships, personal mistakes, shared blame, and the emotional weight that comes with all of it. It's vulnerable, it's uncomfortable, and it's painfully honest. The vocal performance on that song is next level. Some of the best vocals of her entire career, easily. There's restraint, emotion, and control all wrapped together, and it hits hard every time. Something this Grammys really confirmed for me is that the rules are flexible. Technically, Wildflower dropped last year, but since it wasn't officially pushed as a single until this year, they let it slide. Same thing with Olivia Dean winning Best New Artist. Her album technically landed after the cutoff, but the singles dropped before, so that's what counted. But let's be real. The Grammys run on vibes more than spreadsheets. Olivia Dean has that undeniable aura right now. She feels like a rocket ship in motion, and in this moment, she felt like the best new artist. That momentum matters. And what made this even more interesting was the contrast with Somber. Because with him, it really felt like the album was rushed. The potential is clearly there, but timing and patience make all the difference. Somber dropped his album literally right before the cutoff, like a week out, and it was only 10 tracks. That was clearly a strategic move. The thinking was probably, okay, he needs an album out to even be considered, but we'll keep it tight and fast. Meanwhile, Olivia Dean did the complete opposite. She waited, took her time, and delivered a really cohesive, fully realized album after the cutoff. And in the end, the Grammys didn't care at all. Same story with Billie Eilish and Wildflower winning Song of the Year. That song was written so beautifully, so intentionally, that it honestly would have felt wild if it walked away with nothing. Sometimes the quality just overrides the calendar. I will say, though, there were a few surprises. I was genuinely shocked that APT didn't take home anything. That song is massive. It's clever, playful, and such a smart cultural moment. The wordplay alone, tying the game into apartment, is pop songwriting done right. It's catchy, it's cheeky, and it sticks in your head. Bruno Mars and Rosé together is such a strong pairing. I honestly would have loved to see that win Song of the Year or Record of the Year. But listen, Wildflower took it, and I'm not mad. You already know Billie is my girl. Record of the Year did surprise me a little, though. But then again, the Grammys love Kendrick Lamar. And to be fair, he always delivers at the highest level. Him winning Record of the Year 2 years in a row is honestly wild. That kind of back-to-back dominance does not happen by accident. I saw people pointing out that he's now officially the most Grammy-awarded rapper of all time. And yeah, that feels completely earned. At this point, Kendrick Lamar is legitimately in the conversation for greatest rapper ever, which is crazy to even say out loud. He's had an absolutely unreal 2-year run, not just commercially, but culturally too. Everything he touches sparks conversation, meaning, and impact. So honestly, I was happy with that win. That said, this category was stacked. There were so many incredible songs. For me, Abracadabra was the best performed song of the entire year, hands down. Lady Gaga isn't just performing anymore. She's building full-on cinematic worlds. A 3-story cage, Coachella, the VMAs, every single performance felt like a short film. That level of commitment is insane. The Subway would have been such a bold wildcard pick. Anxiety, too. Both of those would have made sense. And DTMF would have been incredible as well. But Bad Bunny already took Album of the Year. So I'm not mad about Record of the Year going elsewhere. That balance felt fair. Now let's talk about performances and some of the more interesting wins. Starting with Justin Bieber performing Naked. I actually think there was a lot of symbolism packed into that moment. Swag being his first album without Scooter Braun involved is a huge shift. That performance felt intentional, stripped back, and very telling. And yeah, there's definitely more to unpack there. That performance felt raw in a way we almost never see anymore. It was just Justin, stripped all the way down artistically. And honestly, that explains everything. The black and white visuals, the black album cover, the minimalism across the whole era. It all clicks when you think about it. Justin Bieber has been inside the machine since he was basically a kid. He's spent his entire life being shaped, packaged, and directed by the industry. And it really feels like this is the first time he stepped fully outside of that system and said, "This is just me." That performance wasn't about spectacle. There was no band, no layers, no distractions, no costumes, no safety net, just him, his voice, and the song. And that was the whole point. It felt like him saying, "This is my most vulnerable version as an artist, and I'm standing in it." This album hits different because of that. It's raw, it's exposed, and yeah, it's his first album as a father too, which adds a whole other layer. There's something really poetic about that moment. People saw it and went straight to surface-level reactions, but there was a lot of intention baked into that performance. Now, for Best Pop Duo or Group Performance, I have a hot take. I genuinely think the original Defying Gravity hits harder than the version by Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo. You can disagree, that's fine. Maybe it's nostalgia talking, but that original version still clears for me. And honestly, Golden from K-pop Demon Hunters would have been such a cool win too. That track had energy, impact, and real cultural momentum. I wouldn't have been mad at all if it took the trophy. The fact that K-pop Demon Hunters became the most streamed movie in Netflix history is actually mind-blowing. This wasn't a sequel, not a remake, not part of some giant franchise. Nobody saw it coming, and suddenly it was everywhere. That's what makes it such a real, cultural phenomenon. It came out of nowhere and completely took over. For K-pop as a genre, this was a massive mainstream moment, especially with younger audiences. It felt fresh, exciting, and different. You can already tell every studio is scrambling behind the scenes, trying to figure out how to recreate that magic. How do we get our own version of that? That impact is going to be studied for years. Honestly, I would have loved to see it take the win. I'm not mad at Defying Gravity, because yes, I love Wicked, and yes, I love Ariana, we all know that. But if I'm being real, I think K-pop Demon Hunters would have been the bolder, more exciting choice in that moment. Now, Sinners winning Best Soundtrack over Wicked genuinely shocked me. But at the same time, I'm not upset about it at all. That soundtrack is one of the most beautiful, intentional pieces of work I've seen in a long time. The music isn't just background, it's woven directly into the storytelling. What makes it even more powerful is how deeply it connects to culture and history. The film uses music as a window into its time, showing how genres like country, jazz, and bluegrass were built from the work of Black artists, enslaved people, and freed slaves. Then watching how that music was later repackaged and commercialized adds so much weight to the story. It was bold, meaningful, and absolutely deserved that recognition. So much of that music was taken from those communities and never given the same level of credit or ownership. And seeing that truth acknowledged on such a big stage felt powerful. That's why Sinners winning mattered so much. It's a completely original film, not based on a book, not part of an existing IP, not backed by decades of history. It just showed up as itself and still stood tall. When you compare that to something like Wicked, which has massive institutional backing, Broadway history, and years of cultural dominance, the contrast is wild. And don't get me wrong, I love Wicked. We all know this. But seeing an original story like Sinners break through like that was beautiful. I genuinely hope Sinners picks up Oscar wins too. Honestly, I wanted it to take Best Picture. So fingers crossed, this feels like the beginning of something big. Now we have to talk about Album of the Year. Bad Bunny winning was so deserved it almost hurt. That album gives me chills every time. It's such a vivid window into Puerto Rican culture, into childhood memories, nostalgia, and the feeling of missing home as life moves faster and faster. What makes it even more special is how intentional he is. As his career explodes globally, he never lets go of where he comes from. He uses his platform to show people what it truly means to be Puerto Rican, with pride, honesty, and love. That representation matters. I also love how fearless he is with self-expression. The gender-fluid fashion, the confidence, the refusal to fit into a box. He's such a strong role model, especially right now. And with everything happening politically, especially with Donald Trump back in the conversation, this win felt even more meaningful. Seeing culture, identity, and authenticity Celebrated like that gave me real hope. Now, one of the biggest surprises of the night for me was Lady Gaga not taking home any of the big four awards. That genuinely shocked me. This album was incredible. She literally broke the record for the largest concert ever by a female artist with her Brazil performance. Her Coachella set was culture-shifting, generational, the kind of performance people will still reference years from now. The Abracadabra performances alone were insane. The visuals, the theatrical storytelling, the commitment, everything was on another level. And Die with a Smile has been one of the biggest songs of the past 2 years. Even though it dropped earlier, it's technically part of this album cycle, which made the snub feel even more surprising. That said, I can still admit this was truly Bad Bunny's year. Completely. And I'm so happy about it. This was his first ever Album of the Year win, and it was historic. The first Spanish-language album to ever take that award. That matters. That's culture moving forward in real time. And this is exactly why I keep saying the Grammys are a time capsule. They reflect what's happening in the world. The excitement around Latin culture, the desire to uplift these artists, it's not random. It's happening during a moment where those communities are under real pressure and scrutiny, and seeing them celebrated on the biggest stages feels powerful. Moments like this make me feel hopeful. Like more people are paying attention than we realize. And honestly, this feels like the start of a wild year for music. A real turning point. I cannot wait to see what comes next. That's my Grammys recap. Let me know if there was anything you wanted me to talk about that I didn't cover. I'll be jumping into the comments. Thank you so much for watching and rocking with me. This still doesn't feel real. And if you want more unfiltered music takes, culture breakdowns, and moments like this, make sure you subscribe to the Juicy Reel channel right now. You do not want to miss what's coming next. I'll see you very soon.
Wasn't political. Bad Bunny's halftime show.
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah.
Well, it resonated. It was smart because it wasn't preaching. It was showing. It was demonstrating and displaying. This is what a community is. And people who did not speak Spanish and have never been to Puerto Rico, they saw that elderly woman serving a drink and the kids dancing with their grandmas, and it was intergenerational, and it was a reminder of what Dr. King called the beloved community can look like.
8 days ago, Bad Bunny stepped onto the biggest stage in America and made history. For the first time ever, a Super Bowl halftime show was performed entirely in Spanish by a solo artist. What happened next? Total chaos. Congressional investigations started popping up. Wild conspiracy theories flooded social media, and even Barack Obama stepped in with a response. All of that, over just 13 minutes on stage. It all went down at Super Bowl 60, held at Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara. On paper, the headline should have been the Seattle Seahawks defeating the New England Patriots 29-13. But let's be real. Nobody was arguing about touchdowns the next morning. The internet was on fire over halftime. Born Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio, Bad Bunny had been announced back in September 2025 after the NFL teamed up with Apple Music and Rock Nation to lock him in. The moment the news dropped, the reactions were loud. Some people celebrated, others questioned it, and he made his stance crystal clear. This is for my people, my culture, and our history. That wasn't just promo talk. That was a statement. And the timing? Unreal. Just 1 week before kickoff, Bad Bunny made history again. On February 1st, he became the first artist recording exclusively in Spanish to win Album of the Year at the Grammy Awards for his album, Debí Tirar Más Fotos. That win wasn't just a trophy, it was momentum. it was power, and it set the stage for a halftime show that would shake the culture way beyond football. When he grabbed that Grammy, he didn't just say thank you and walk off. During his speech at the Grammy Awards, he dedicated the win to all the people that had to leave their homeland, their country, to follow their dreams. That line hit deep. And a week later, that exact message was woven straight into his Super Bowl performance. It wasn't random. It was intentional. It was personal. Now here's where it gets interesting. The NFL didn't lock in Bad Bunny right away. Early talks reportedly included Taylor Swift, but she turned it down. Why? She didn't want to headline a game where her fiancé, Travis Kelce, could potentially be on the field. That would have been a media circus on another level. Even after the Kansas City Chiefs were knocked out of the postseason on December 14th, 2025, the wheels were already turning behind the scenes. Big names were floating everywhere. Lady Gaga, Mariah Carey, Justin Bieber, Drake, even Metallica was reportedly in the mix. The rumors were wild. But once Bad Bunny secured the spot, there was no turning back. When the performance finally aired, a massive 128.2 million viewers tuned in on NBC. That made it the fourth most watched halftime show ever. Only Kendrick Lamar's 2025 show with 133.5 million, Michael Jackson's legendary 1993 performance with 133.4 million, and Usher's 2024 set with 129.3 million pulled bigger numbers. That's elite company. Love it or hate it, those 13 minutes locked Bad Bunny into halftime history forever. The TV numbers were huge, but YouTube went even crazier. In just 24 hours, Bad Bunny's halftime show became the most watched Super Bowl performance ever on the platform. That's not just hype, that's domination. The stage? It wasn't just a stage, it was Puerto Rico brought straight to California. He built a full Puerto Rican village right there in the stadium. At the center stood La Casita, a traditional-style home that anchored the whole production. The show opened in a sugarcane field, with backup dancers dressed like field workers, creating a powerful visual right from the first second. No warm-up, no easing in, just statement after statement. Then the set shifted into a marketplace scene inspired by La Placita, surrounded by palm trees and island vegetation. The details were sharp. The vibe felt authentic. Dressed head to toe in white, rocking a jersey with Ocasio and the number 64 on it, he made sure his name, and his roots, were front and center. He ran through hits like Titi Me Preguntó, Baile Inolvidable, DTMF, Monaco, and Yo Perreo Sola, keeping the energy high the entire 13 minutes. Then things leveled up. Lady Gaga joined him for a Latin-inspired version of Die With a Smile, her Grammy-winning collab with Bruno Mars. And out of nowhere, Ricky Martin stepped in with an acoustic version of Lo Mejor de Mi Vida Eres Tú. That crowd reaction? Insane. The cameos didn't stop there. Pedro Pascal, Jessica Alba, Cardi B, Karol G. They all popped up throughout the show, adding star power every few minutes. And when he performed El Apagón, his song touching on gentrification in Puerto Rico, the symbolism got even heavier. At one point, an actual wedding ceremony happened right there on stage, confirmed by his team. That wasn't acting. That was real. And in one emotional moment, he handed his Grammy statuette to a young boy in the crowd, passing the torch in front of millions. Every minute had meaning. Every second was loaded. Plus, the emotional moment got even deeper. A child actor named Lincoln Fox Ramadan came on stage, styled to look like a young Bad Bunny. Same energy, same vibe. It looked like he was handing the Grammy to his younger self. That image hit hard, like a full-circle moment playing out live in front of millions. Then came the symbolism. He climbed an electrical pole, a direct reference to Puerto Rico's ongoing power grid struggles. No words needed. The message was loud. At another moment, a football with the words, "Together we are America," got spiked into the ground. Boom. Clear statement. On screen, the words, "The only thing more powerful than hate is love," flashed across the stadium. That wasn't subtle. That was bold. The Puerto Rican flag was painted across his back while dancers waved flags from nations all across North, Central, and South America. He even listed more than 20 countries during the performance, uniting the whole hemisphere in one breath. And in one of the only English lines of the night, he shouted, "God bless America." That line? Strategic, loud, impossible to ignore. The numbers backed it up too. Apple Music reported his streams jumped 7 times after the show. DTMF, Bail Inolvidable, and TT Me Pregunto shot to the top as his most played tracks almost instantly. That halftime boost was real. And here's the twist that shocked people. Despite the massive production, the millions spent on staging, and the cultural weight of it all, Bad Bunny reportedly earned around $1,000 per day under his Screen Actors Guild union scale contract. The National Football League covered the production costs, which can run into the millions. So while the show looked like a billion-dollar moment, his direct paycheck was surprisingly modest. But everything changed on Monday evening, February 10th. The tone of the conversation shifted fast. And not in the way anyone expected. Then the political firestorm exploded. Andy Ogles from Tennessee sent a formal letter to the House Energy and Commerce Committee, blasting the halftime show as pure smut brazenly aired on national television. He accused the performance of crossing serious lines, pointing to dancers moving provocatively and moments where Bad Bunny grabbed his crotch on stage. Ogles claimed the lyrics promoted unspeakable depravities and even gave him a new nickname, Raunchy Rabbit. That wasn't subtle. That was a direct attack. He doubled down saying being here is a privilege and argued the show proved Puerto Rico should never become a U.S. state. That comment? It set social media off instantly. Meanwhile, Randy Fine from Florida called the halftime show illegal. He claimed that if those same lyrics had been performed in English on live television, the broadcast would have been cut and massive fines would have followed. According to him, the language barrier shielded the performance from consequences. That claim added even more heat to the debate. A formal complaint was also sent to the Federal Communications Commission, demanding strong action, including potential fines and even broadcast license reviews targeting the National Football League, NBC, and Bad Bunny himself. The pressure wasn't just online anymore, it was official. Then Mark Alford appeared on television saying, "We are still investigating this." He admitted he doesn't speak fluent Spanish, but still described the lyrics as very disturbing. That statement raised eyebrows fast. Critics questioned how you can fully judge lyrics in a language you don't understand. By Monday night, this wasn't just about music. It had turned into a full political showdown playing out on national TV. But here's the part that flipped the whole narrative. The Federal Communications Commission reviewed the performance and ruled that Bad Bunny did not violate any broadcast rules. That's right. No fines, no penalties, no shutdowns. Songs like Titi Me Pregunto, Monaco, and Zafaera were cleaned up for the Super Bowl stage. The explicit lyrics people associate with those tracks? They were removed. The raw club versions never made it to live TV. Big difference. After reviewing everything, the FCC decided there were no violations and shelved further scrutiny. Case closed. And when you zoom out, halftime outrage isn't new at all. Kendrick Lamar's 2025 halftime show pulled in 125 complaints. Rihanna's 2023 performance sparked 103 complaints, with with some viewers even arguing that twerking should be treated like dropping the F-bomb on air. And remember the 2020 show with Shakira and Jennifer Lopez? That one racked up more than 1,300 complaints, and Bad Bunny actually made a cameo during that show too. So controversy at halftime? That's practically tradition. Now here's another twist. While all this was happening, there was a completely different halftime event airing the same night. Turning Point USA hosted what they called the All-American Halftime Show, headlined by Kid Rock, alongside Brantley Gilbert, Lee Brice, and Gabby Barrett. That lineup was announced on February 4th, just days before the game. So while one stage sparked political headlines and FCC letters, another stage was pushing a totally different vibe at the exact same time. 2 halftime shows, 2 Americas, one massive culture clash playing out in real time. The alternative event leaned heavy into a faith, family, and freedom theme and streamed live across YouTube, Rumble, and other platforms. Turning Point USA claimed massive numbers, saying they pulled in over